Hello there, and welcome to this episode of the Padawan Unlimited podcast, YouTube edition. Today, we're going to review some cards that I think are really great from set two, Shadows of the Galaxy, particularly ones that are not rare or legendary. These are cards that you should be able to find very easily and can have a positive impact on your game regardless of the game mode. So I'm talking between drafting, Twin Suns, or constructed. So hopefully you find something useful and hope you enjoy. First, we're going to cover vigilance. And first up, we have Moisture Farmer. And I think this is great for a couple reasons. It's a cheap card, it's not aligned with heroism or villainy, has a very strong keyword in Restore 2. And there's a lot of interesting combinations you can use with this card. For example, you throw in Ray, you start giving this card power, it gets stronger. You throw with Luke, you give it shields. You could even do things like combine it with First Light for a late game kind of recovery. And what does First Light do? It gives everyone grit. So eventually, this card can become like a 2/2 or a 3/1, right? With Restore 2, and that's very powerful, I think, as a one cost card. And because it has 4 health right in the beginning, it's going to take a couple hits that from the opponent. It's going to take a couple hits to get rid of it. Even though it doesn't do anything back, you're essentially gaining action economy here. And then the second card I want to talk about for Vigilance, which I think is universally accepted as a really great card, is Rivals Fall. Right? I see this. If you're gonna play blue in drafted, pick this card up as soon as possible. This card is also great in constructed. Obviously, it's just defeat a unit. Very simple. Does one thing very well, and save this for the right time. It also kind of makes Vanquish from set one, which is a 5 cost kind of removal, almost obsolete, even if it costs one more. The next cards I want to talk about are Command, and the first one I have here is Timely Intervention. If you know anything about me, I kind of just love Ambush as a keyword. It's great. So the fact it's one cost and you can play Ambush from any card in your hand is fantastic. And then there's a smuggle ability. So for 2 costs, and this is more finding the right time. You throw this on your um, resource pool, and now you have a built-in ambush for kind of any card, and that's great if you need a swing. You need those options later on in the game. It's really awesome. And then second, I have Discerning Veteran. Now it's a 5 cost, right? And it's a little weak. It's actually pretty weak for a 5 cost in that it has 3 damage and 4 health. But its when played ability, I think, is very powerful. What it does is when you play it, you capture an enemy ground unit. And I think that, that I've played this card and it's saved me a lot. With the 4 health at 5 cost, it's kind of low, but it will take most opponents 1 or 2 cards to kind of get rid of this unless they have something in their hand. But in the meantime, what are you doing? Like, you could potentially be removing Snoke from the game for a round, which allows you to do other things. And I think that's a very powerful capture mechanic. It's built in, it's when played, so it's not reliant on anything else aside from just putting it on the board. Very powerful card, I think. Very fun. When we move on to aggression, I have here Cassian Andor. Cassian Andor is a 3 costs, 3/5 with only 1 keyword rebel, but it's still a really good keyword. One of the few rebels in set 2. But Cassian Andor, I think, is also a really good card for aggro specifically, because if you're going to throw him in this, you're pretty much going to throw him into your resource pool to smuggle him later. But when you are at the turn, when you potentially need a card to come in and do some damage, you're going to play Cassian Andor, and that's as a 5 cost. Let's say you don't have Poe available, right, to throw down, but you just need to juice out some damage in the 5 or 6 resource turn. Play him. He's a great card, and he's ready. And he, again, 5 health. It's gonna take 2-3 hits. People might have to waste or use up a removal card on him because he's just a little out of range for some cards. Really powerful. And then the second one I have here is Daring Raid. Daring Raid, kind of like Rival Assault, does one thing and does it very well. It's 2 damage to a unit or base. This is a great closer card if you are just trying to eliminate a very powerful unit that's on the board, or you're trying to get juice out that little bit of damage. So you think about you're at the 5 or you're at the 6 resource turn as an aggro, and it's about to go downhill from there because you're playing against a hard control deck, but you just need to irk out just a little bit more damage. Think about how you can play Casting Andor, and then Daring Raid, and you're doing 5 damage off the rip. And let's say that's because you don't have, for a cause I believe in, you don't have a Poe, you don't have a Wrecker, right? These are cheap cards that you potentially have kind of lying around, and I think that's really powerful. And they're both, one's an uncommon, one's a common, so easy to find. Next, we have for Cunning. This was a very hard choice for me because there's a lot of actually interesting cards here, but I chose Emphas Nest as a card I think is very great for set 2. I think is also almost universally accepted as a really good card. It's a 6 cost, 5/4, and 5 is pretty in line with the damage you expect, but its health is kind of low with 4. But if you have to look at the ability, I mean, it comes with an ambush, which is great, and I love ambush. But when a friendly unit, including this one, is attacking using ambush, the defender gets -3. So most cards, like 60% of the unit cards, are 80% of the unit cards are not going to do any damage to essentially Infant's Nest, which means you're essentially going to take out a unit regardless. If you're not taking it out, it's going to be hurt really bad. Um, and for that first turn, which essentially means that you could potentially get three kills off of Emphas Nest. You come in with the ambush, right? Next turn you're doing the damage, then the next turn you're doing again damage again. If they're not dealing with Emphas Nest, and they're going to deal with Emphas Nest because of that second ability. Anything with ambush gets -3. If you combine that with anything like timely intervention, where you just give ambush to any unit, right? You're throwing units on the board. You're pretty much going to kill them, if not really damage them, and take nothing in return. You're getting ahead in the action economy, which is again very powerful. This Emphas Nest has a good combination with some of the ride like the rider card that's kind of in set 2, which is great. But I think that Emphas Nest, people are going to deal with it. They're going to use removal. They're going to do whatever they can to get removed to kill it, and they're taking 5 damage in return if they're using a unit. Very very powerful. Good way to swing the game in your favor. And you'll see a theme here. So in terms of the second card I have here is that like I choose cards that do one thing and they do it very well. So Frozen and Carbonite does one thing. You attach it to a non-leader and that unit can't ready. And it exhausts that unit that turn. So you throw this on like a Poe Dameron, they're not doing anything. That negates that card. You don't want to throw this on a Sentinel, but any card that has an ability that does like an on attack ability, this negates it, and that's huge because now they just kind of wasted it, and now they're gonna have to waste. By they, I mean your opponent's gonna have to waste turn either bouncing this card back into your hand, doing upgrade removal. They're wasting turns to just deal with this, and you're ramping up your board. I think this is a great card to do that one thing very well. And again, these are 2 uncommon, so easy to resource or easy to find. And then finally, I'm going to move on to the heroism and villainy cards. I kind of wrote this backwards. But we'll go with Toro Calican, right? Again, another 3 cost with kind of like Cassian Andor or Boba Fett, I think. The Boba Fett unit card from set 1. It's 3/5, a very strong card in terms of cost to, efficiency to cost like health and attack. And this ability is when you play another bounty hunter unit, which is very salient for set 2, you deal 1 damage to it, and you ready this unit, which means you ready Toro Calican just to do 1 damage, which is pretty much arbitrary to another unit, which is very powerful. I mean, you essentially can get a couple hits off right off the bat with this card, and I think there's some good, interesting combos with this in set 2. And then finally, we have the Gray Squadron Y-Wing. This is I don't know if it's controversial. I don't know if it's universally accepted as a really good card. I really like it. It's a common. You see it all the time. It's a rebel card. Has a vehicle fighter. Has three different keywords. Not necessarily relevant, but there's three of them, so that might be useful when we're in the future. And then on attack, an opponent chooses a unit or base they control, and you may deal 2 damage to it. So, you throw this round one, it's not doing that much power, not doing that much damage, but now they have to make a choice. You can either, they're going to have to hurt their units and get them down and get them essentially within striking range of your other cards if you're trying to go wide on the board, or they're going to get hit their base. So either way, I mean, 3 damage on the board, that's very powerful. And then 3 health, so it's not necessarily the easiest card to get rid of in one hit. You're gonna probably upgrade this. You're probably gonna play this card with, a Ray or a Luke or anything like that. Or I don't really suggest you do this aggro. It doesn't do damage right off the bat, but it gives you a lot of options, and it forces people to make choices. They have to think about what they want to do, which again puts you in a position of power when you're playing a game, because now you're dictating the tempo, right? They have to decide, do they want to take a base hit or do they want to take a hit to their units, which means that you'll be able to kill them way more easily. And that's it. Those are some of the top cards, or some, I mean, not top cards, but great cards that I think are very useful for any deck, regardless of the meta you're playing, or the game mode that you're playing. If you have any questions, feel free to post them in the comments. Would love to kind of collaborate and talk with you guys. And remember to like, subscribe, and tell your friends about this podcast and YouTube channel. So as always, may the force be with you. Talk to you later. Bye.